Didn't see you there. Right, we in the English department have got a challenge for you. It's World Book Day this week, and we challenge you to read as widely and as broadly as possible. So, to inspire you, we have some of your English teachers here sharing some of their favourite books that they recommend. So, go forth, read, and have lots of fun. Hello. Right, the book I would like to recommend is this one. It is Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi, and it is the story of a young woman growing up in Iran, sort of in the 1960s, and then it follows her story from childhood all the way to kind of adulthood, and the whole story is about her trying to find herself and struggle through the changes, the political and religious changes that were going through Iran during her lifetime. It's really, really funny. It's really, really funny. It's really, really sad because lots of awful things were happening at that time. But it's a brilliant, brilliant read. Also, it's a graphic novel as well, so it's kind of just a very different read to what we're used to, and it's the first kind of graphic novel that really got me interested in graphic novels, and it really helped me to think about how literature can be so broad and so interesting. Okay, so Persepolis, give that a read. It is brilliant. Thank you.
Hello everyone, good morning. So I'm currently reading two books at the moment. I'm currently reading a non-fiction book and a fiction book. The non-fiction book I'm reading is Atomic Habits by James Clear. This looks at the habits that we formed throughout our lives, starting from a teenager, working our way up to adulthood, and how these affect our productivity and organisation, and how we can actually change our habits to become more productive and organised. And the fiction book I'm reading is Matt Haig's The Midnight Library, which has a really, really lovely message behind it. I recommend both of these books to you as teenagers, and I hope that you enjoy them. Right, see you later. Take care. Bye.
So the book I'm currently reading is The Choice by Edith Eger, and it's about her experience of being captured and taken to Auschwitz towards the end of World War II, along with her family, and the tragedy that she encountered whilst there. And I got the book because I heard her being interviewed on the radio a couple of years ago, just as the book was being released. And what stood out to me in the interview was that she said there was a time when she was starving in Auschwitz, or she managed to get out of Auschwitz, but she was still captured and she was starving, and all she could eat was grass. And she realised in that moment that she had a choice over which blade of grass to pick and to choose, and she savoured that because it was her choice. And she said it made her realise that it doesn't matter how small or how limited your options are, if you've got a choice, then there's hope. And she's carried that with her throughout her life, and she's supported many people as a role as a counsellor who have suffered with trauma, and she's still publishing books now. So I recommend you look Edith Eger up, and certainly recommend that you read this book. Desmond Tutu described it as one of those rare and eternal stories that you don't want to end and that leave you forever changed. And I agree with that, and I'm only halfway through the book so far. And over in the library, Miss Evans is currently reading Tilly and the Map of Stories, which is part of the Pages & Co series, which is an apt title, I think, given the English department challenge that Mr. Clark has explained to you also. What will you read?
Right, as part of the English challenge, we're looking at reading for you after half term, and one book that I read probably about when I was in year 9 or year 10 was Arthur C. Clarke's 2001 Space Odyssey, and I read that because my father recommended it to me, and it was a book that really lightened my kind of interest and enthusiasm for science fiction that I still have today. So it's an amazing book, and I would really recommend reading it. And obviously Arthur C. Clarke is an absolute genius, and he's written lots of sci-fi books that I would recommend that would be quite challenging at times with the context and the vocabulary, but please give it a go, Hatton students. Thank you, take care.
So a book that I would really like to recommend is a book that has inspired me this year, and it's a fantastic non-fiction read. For anybody who's interested in challenges or walking, running, being outdoors, or just wants to read something that's really inspirational. So my book is called Feet in the Clouds by Richard Askwith. And it was gifted to me by a really, really good friend, and it's now one of my favourite books. It's all about a man who overcomes lots of personal challenges in his life, and then he competes in the Bob Graham, which is a run in the Lake District, which involves summiting all 42 peaks in less than 24 hours with thousands of metres of ascent, obviously the weather and everything being in the mountains and wild country. And it's just a brilliant, brilliant book, and I'd recommend it to anybody.
Good morning, everyone. This year I set myself the challenge to read 52 books, which equates to one book a week. I'm a little bit behind, but I thought I'd share with you what I've been reading so far. So the first book I started with was The Librarian of Auschwitz, and then I read The Girl with the Louding Voice, and then I moved on to An American Marriage, and then I read Such a Fun Age, and now I'm currently reading, nearly finished, The Vanishing Half. Now I think this book is the best book out of all of those, and I would really recommend that you read it. It's fantastic. It's about some twins that get separated and then come back together later on in their lives. Happy reading!
Happy Book Day, everyone. I was asked to think about what was my favourite book, and I find that really hard because my favourite novel changes from week to week or month to month depending on what I've been reading. I suppose one of my absolute favourites is Pride and Prejudice, but other favourites that I've included over the years have included the Hilary Mantel Wolf Hall trilogy. My other favourite books have to be things like the collections of poetry by T.S. Eliot, plays by Tennessee Williams, Shakespeare of course, and Arthur Miller. Why don't you try something different? Try reading a play or a poem, as well as trying to challenge yourself by reading some of the classic novels.
Right, I think we're almost organised. So now we just check emails and we should be... What's it? Oh. Clark, what does he want? Let's have a... Yeah, hello, all right. I'm just... What am I supposed to have forgotten? The book thing? What book thing? What's my favourite book? My favourite book? Like, I'm a bit... Well, I haven't really got a favourite book, mate. I obviously like reading. I like books more than people, but it's just pretty difficult to think of just one. Mrs. Gunn's done it, has she? Oh, she said that as well, did she? I bet she's read loads this year, hasn't she? Yeah, she's probably still upset that I read more than her last year, so... 83, actually, books I read last year, yeah. Yeah, 83. No, well, yeah, it was more than you, yes, Mr. Clark, it was more than you, yeah. Quite a lot. How did I do it? With a child as well, yeah. Just superhuman, I suppose. So you want to know... Hang on. Well, there's this one. This is Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace, R.I.P. Bless him. This is an incredible book about addiction and sadness and what it means to be a human being. Basically, like all good literature, it's massive. I mean, it's good for both becoming cleverer and laughing and crying and enjoying literature. And if you're burgled, or fantasy. Well, I say fantasy-wise, this is also amazing. The Passage by Justin Cronin. This is the best thing I've ever read about vampires. Don't let that put you off. It is basically sort of a Stephen King influenced vampire sci-fi story that actually ends up spanning hundreds of years. It's amazing. It's first in the trilogy, Passage by Justin Cronin. Yeah, that do. You don't think I can read 100 this year? You'll see. We'll see, won't we? So, all right. Cheers. Forgot what I was doing now.